Are you looking to progress your career quickly whilst also ensuring that you continue to do meaningful work? You may be someone who feels that your career has stagnated and you may even be starting to resent your job. Although this is common, it can lead to us feeling disillusioned and even burnout. Well, in this video, I'm going to share the 6 work habits that help me with this and how you can use these to progress your own career quickly in a direction that's meaningful to you. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mahin and I'm an advanced practice physiotherapist specialising in pain management based in the UK. On this channel, we explore lifestyle strategies and tools to help you create healthy and happier lives. Today, I'm going to let you know the 6 work habits that changed my life so you can use these to maximise your career growth. So let's get into it. Identity, values, goals, and habits. Regularly reflecting on these needs to become a habit to have a successful career, and I'm going to touch on each of these individually within this video. But starting off with identity and finding your why, can you truly say to yourself that you know what you want out of life? If not, don't worry, you're not alone. Most people really struggle with this question. When people are asked about what they don't want from life, that's an easier question. You know, we don't want to be poor, we don't want to be lonely, we don't want to be in a job that isn't fulfilling, for example. But when we're actually asked about what we want from life, that can sometimes be a more difficult question to answer. And this is very individual for all of us, and it's really important that we start off with this question first of all. And this can be quite a big problem because if you don't know the answer to that question, then it's very difficult to be successful in life. When we're thinking about success here, I'm not just talking about, financial success, which is the obvious thing that we think about when we think of success. It goes much beyond this. Success is also feeling fulfilled and happy within yourself. So starting with that question is really important because we see so many people who, earn loads of money and still report they're not happy. And that's probably because they're not doing something that's meaningful to them. Because how can we expect to make our desires a reality if we don't even know what those desires initially are? So we need to start with this question first of all. And we can think about it like, if we were going to start a long car journey, we'd obviously want to know what our destination is beforehand. Otherwise, we would just keep on traveling, would run out of gas, and we'd never get to our destination that we're aiming for. So it's the same thing here. We need to have that end destination in mind before we start with any of the work initially. So in other words, you need to figure out the person that you want to be and what your specific individual why is. By starting to think about your desired identity, so the person that you want to be, we can start to make decisions in line with that identity. So, for example, if we want to be a person who is calm, who has time for their loved ones around them, who wants to travel, and who wants to take in new experiences, then we can start to make decisions now to set up a life that will match in line with that desired identity, okay? And another way that this can work is if we tell ourselves that we are something, we can form an identity with that, and forming behaviors and habits around that becomes a lot easier. So for example, for me, I am someone who exercises 3 times a week. Okay, so rather than being someone who would like to exercise 3 times a week, I'm forming an identity with myself as someone who does exercise 3 times a week. Okay, I am that person, that is what I do, and it's easy to form habits then around that when we form the identity of that person, that desired identity of who we want to be. For example, if you're someone who wants to act with compassion and kindness, when you're faced with a distressed patient, you can live in line with that desired identity by showing good listening skills and offering them the space and time to tell them about your troubles, okay? So you are then acting in line with that identity. Your identity may also include your strengths. So something that happened to me recently, which was a really good experience, is I was being mentored by someone and they identified some strengths within myself that I actually didn't realize I had. So I was told that I was a creative person, and this may seem a little bit strange to you because you're watching a YouTube video, but I've actually never seen myself as a creative person. And they also identified a strength in me where they said that I have a good ability to bring people along with me on the journey. So winning people over and bringing them along with me to sell an idea or a concept or, share a journey with them. And this made me reflect on my strengths within physiotherapy. And what I realized is, although I just thought, I'm good clinically, actually, when I go down even deeper, my biggest strengths have been able to connect with people quickly and bring them along on a certain concept or idea. And working in pain management, we're having to do this constantly because the old ways of treating pain with medications, injections, surgery, those kind of things are seen as less helpful now. And actually trying to help people develop non-medication or non-interventional pain management strategies can be a challenge. So it's been able to sell that idea quickly and bring people along on the journey with me. And that's what my biggest strength is within the wider context or the wider title of physiotherapist. And that's been really helpful because I know now that I can take that strength into, other parts of my career or even my personal life as well. Okay, so we're talked about your identity. Now we need to talk about your why. So your why is what drives you, okay? And I'm talking about what really, really drives you. So it's your deepest, rawest, truest passions and desires, okay? So that is really important to reflect on, because we need to know what our why is. We need to know what in those difficult times is going to keep us going. And it's not always that easy just to, think of it straight away with, I know what my identity is, I know what my why is, because this can really take some self-reflection, and it can take weeks or even months really of really, really reflecting on what's meaningful and important to you, so that you can start to make a plan. And it's really important you don't rush this bit initially, because doing things in line with the person that you want to be and for the reasons that you want to do it are those things that are going to keep you going when times get hard. I've done a previous video on how to turn your passion into purpose that I'll leave a link to in the description below. This goes deeper into discovering what your why is and knowing how to combine what you love with what the world needs and what you're good at as well. So make sure you watch that video after this one. The key message here is to act more intentionally and stick to your goals once you've figured out what motivates you. A good way to start with this is thinking about the future. So in 10 years' time, what would you like your ideal ordinary week to look like? And actually jotting down what you will be doing each day of that week in 10 years' time. And when you write this down, don't just include what you want from your career, also include other areas of your life. So what would you want to be getting from your relationships? What kind of state of mind do you want to be in? What hobbies and passions do you want to be exploring outside of work? And include as much detail as possible, because this is really important. This almost forms a bit of a blueprint to what we're working towards. Now, once you've got that 10-year ideal ordinary week written down, work backwards from that and think about where you need to be in 5 years' time to be closer to that ideal. Okay, so again, jot down what your week might look like, follow the same process that you have done for the 10-year plan, and write down in 5 years where you need to be. Finally then, set some goals for the next 1 year. Again, what will move you closer now to your 5-year plan? Again, include as much detail as possible, okay? So what will move you closer to your 5-year plan? Okay, that's what we're doing in the next year. Without clear goals, we can lack direction and clarity in what we do day to day, week to week, month to month, okay? So this is why this is so early on, and this is why this is number 2 on the 6 work habits that changed my life. But don't just include outcome-based goals, also include process-based goals, and I will explain what I mean by outcome versus process-based goals now. An example of both a process and outcome-based goal would be around reaching a wider audience through this YouTube channel, okay? The outcome-based goal would be to help 1,000 people improve their pain and their health through lifestyle changes that they've learnt about on this channel. The process-based goal would be to continue delivering and uploading one quality YouTube video each week for the next 6 months. The difference between the two goals is I have direct influence over the process-based goal, but not necessarily the outcome-based goal. It's important to have both, because the outcome-based goal is useful in knowing where we want to get to, but it's actually the process-based goals that are more important, because they're the things that we can act on. And we know that if we keep ticking off those process-based goals, then eventually, hopefully, we'll get to that outcome. But if we're not mapping the bits on how to get to that outcome, then that outcome can seem very daunting and we don't have a clear path on how to get there. As with your desired identity and your why, it's really important to keep reflecting on these goals, because they may change over time. And it's important to reflect on them so just that we're not losing that clarity and that direction that we're heading in. So we've gone through identity, finding your why, and goals. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about habits. So when I'm talking about habits, I'm talking about the work habits that you might need to do daily. Okay, so things that you're going to do every single day that's going to move you towards that 1 year goal that we spoke about. Okay. The other things that habits include, the things that put you in the best position possible to achieve your goals. So what I mean by that is things like, it might be lifestyle habits. So things like making sure that we get 8 hours of sleep a night, we're drinking enough water throughout the day to keep our concentration levels up. It might be that we're exercising regularly throughout the week, because we know that that improves concentration and cognitive function. It might be that we're eating healthy as well, so that we have more energy throughout the week. And could be even things like practicing mindfulness regularly, because when we're busy, our mind can be racing at 100 miles per hour, and it's really important to tap back into the present moment so that we can improve our focus, concentration, and our productivity. I've done a previous video on why multitasking is a myth as well, so check that out if you haven't already watched that video. I'll leave a link to that in the description below as well. But when we're thinking about our habits, it's important to use a to-do list. list, because if we've got all of these different habits that we want to be doing, until it becomes a habit, it can be difficult to know where it fits into our life. So I use a to-do list for my week as a whole, but then also I break it down into day. So what this looks like is on a Sunday evening, I usually plan my next week. So I go back to my goals. So I quickly read through my 10-year plan, my 5-year plan, and then I look at what my goals are for the next year. And I think about what can I do over this next week that brings me closer to that 1-year goal. Okay, so I will then put those in to my week. So I'll find a day where I'm going to focus on specific things that will move me closer to that goal. So what I mean by this is, if we go back to my outcome-based goal of helping 1,000 people make lifestyle changes through this YouTube channel in 6 months' time, and also my process-based goal of delivering one high-quality YouTube video each week, what I need for that is I need content ideas. So I would maybe put into my week that on one day this week, I'm going to ask my audience about what content they want to see from me. So that would be how I'm moving one step closer towards that 1 year or 6 month goal in this example. The other things that you might want to add in is, so a daily to-do list of, what do you want to do? So I want to make sure I get out first thing in the morning, get some good morning light, because I know that improves my alertness then throughout the day. I want to make sure I read for half an hour before I go to sleep at night, because that improves my sleep. So I put those in for a to-do list so I know what I need to be doing that day to make sure I'm functioning optimally the next day, so I can achieve all of my goals. And also, by having this to-do list and breaking things down that you're going to achieve that day, you get that small daily win, and that just reinforces the journey that you're on, and it gives you that positive feedback loop to continue when you are getting those regular wins. Goals can seem really daunting, especially long-term goals. They can seem so far away and out of reach that actually they can also reduce motivation levels, because we feel we're never going to get there. So breaking things down, as I've just mentioned, is so important so you can get more regular wins. The other thing that to-do lists are important for is it keeps you on track. But also, if you're in, let's say you're in competition with somebody else. So let's say I'm, for example, in competition with someone on YouTube who is doing a similar thing in a similar niche to me. I know that I only need to be 1% better than them, okay, to be able to get to where I need to be. Similarly at work, if I am going up against someone for that next job, I know that I only need to be performing 1% better than them. And having a to-do list really helps to keep on track with that, because it keeps making sure that you are improving a little bit each day rather than stagnating. And that can be a real issue then if you're looking to move your career forwards. So as we can see from this diagram here, we have purpose in the middle. So purpose is going back to that identity and that why. And then around there, we have outcome-based goals, process-based goals, and then habits that I've spoken about. So you can see here how that purpose is always central to everything we're doing, to all the decisions we make in life. Purpose can be replaced with the word identity. It can be replaced with values, whatever context we're using this in. Important to have the outcome-based goals, but really important to break them down into process-based goals on how we're going to get there, and then the daily habits on how we're going to move up there. So that's really, really important. This diagram's helpful a lot of the time, and I have this in front of me when I'm trying to set goals. And by having a solid system like this, it means that we can be more flexible and adapt within that system. But having a solid system is so important, so that you almost have a little bit of freedom in that flexibility when you need to do it, because you know that you've got that foundation already there and you know you've got things mapped out. So when looking to maximize your career growth, one thing that's really, really important is overcoming that negative voice inside your head. A lot of this comes in the form of imposter syndrome. So if you are looking to develop your own career, you're probably going to be in situations that are uncomfortable to you, or feel like you're stepping outside your comfort zone or area of knowledge, okay? And this is a very, very common thing that people who are looking to move up the ladder can really suffer from imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is feeling like you are not good enough or worthy enough to be doing the thing that you're trying to do. So an example of this in real world terms might be that you are going for a promotion at work, but actually the thing that stops you from going for the promotion is feeling like you're underqualified or don't have the skills for that job. This is normal. Everyone goes through imposter syndrome. But what's really important is being able to overcome that imposter syndrome, because it's very, very unlikely that everyone has all of the skills and requirements for a job when they actually apply for it. A lot of the time people might fill certain criteria, but not everything, okay? And for some people, not meeting all the criteria puts them off from applying for that job, whereas other people might just, go for it anyway, and they're the people who tend to get these jobs. So overcoming imposter syndrome is really, really important. And one of the ways of overcoming it is by throwing yourself into it, okay? By almost battling that head on and taking a dive into something that's potentially uncomfortable. When we avoid a fear or anxiety over time, that fear or anxiety becomes worsened over time. It almost compounds over time until it becomes a lot worse, okay? So by avoiding anything, usually that situation, if it arises again, we're gonna probably avoid it again because it feels even more uncomfortable for us. So it's important to actually lean into things that make us feel a little bit more uncomfortable. And one of the realizations that really changed the way that I approach work now that I had a couple of years ago was actually that feeling of fear and anxiety is actually a feeling of growth. So whenever I feel that now, I lean into that so I can overcome those fears and anxieties. And actually now a lot of the things that I used to get a little bit anxious or apprehensive about, I don't get anxious or apprehensive about that anymore. That fear is almost gone because I've leaned into it. I now get fears or anxieties around other things, but I try to lean into those because, again, that's the feeling of growth for me. And once you have that realization that actually when you have those feelings, it means you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, and life and growth is achieved outside of our comfort zones. Another thing that can hold us back is thinking about what other people think of us. This can stop us from doing things again because we're worried about what other people might say. But in reality, actually, no one really cares that much, okay? So everyone's got their own lives, they're living their own lives, and we often think that someone is going to think a certain way of us if we do something. But you know, even if they do, that's fine. They probably then just go back to thinking about what they're doing that weekend or what they're having for lunch. So not letting what we think other people think of us from doing what we want to do is really important, because that can really limit our growth when we're worried about what other people are thinking. And gossip is temporary, so we need to learn to cut out that noise and still stick to that plan that we spoke about earlier in the video. Finally, around the negative voice in our head is this concept around controlling the controllable and accepting the rest. We only have two decisions in life when we're faced with something that we're not happy with. It's either to change it, if we can, if it's within our control, or accept it. They are the only two options, okay? There is no point dwelling on something that is outside of our control, okay, if we can't change it. We have to learn to accept it to move forwards. We then have more energy to spend on things that are within our control when we're not constantly worrying about things that are outside of our control. So control the controllable and accept the rest. So by eliminating distractions, it helps us to stay more focused and move towards our goals. I'm not going to go into more of it here because this is already quite a long video, so check out that video next if you haven't already seen that. So finally, number 6, put your hand up and take opportunities. So sometimes we have to be selfish in life. People will always say that the same people always get opportunities and always get the best things given to them. But usually they're the people who aren't sticking their hand up and making themselves heard. So by being selfish is ignoring that talk around that, okay, and putting yourself forward for as many opportunities as possible, okay. By putting your hand up for stuff, you're going to get picked more for opportunities, but also people are going to know that you're someone who's always looking for opportunities. So when they have something in mind, you're the person, you're that first name that they want to go to. People will always whisper in silence or between each other before acting up and taking opportunities. Don't be one of those people, okay. Seek opportunities, put your hand up, you know, ask people for things. If you're interested in something, email, call. I've done this so many times before. So an example of this is we have an educational platform at work that all of our training happens on, and they're always looking for people to lead those training sessions. And they'd actually already formed their faculty of people who were going to be leading these sessions, but I really wanted to be involved. So I think I emailed the person organizing this, I think 4 times before I got a response, because, you know, they weren't replying to my emails, but I made sure I kept emailing and kept persisting until they emailed me back. So that's an example of me really kind of sticking my hand up and saying, I really want to be involved with this. And since doing that, it's led to loads of other opportunities following that. So I'm really glad that I took that initial push and persisted with that. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You know, if things are not falling into your lap, you have to go outside of your comfort zone again and seek out those opportunities. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll love this custom playlist that has my most popular videos on how to maximize your career growth, including the one that I talked about earlier about how to turn your passion into purpose. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you on the next video.